Have you ever walked into a room smiling, pretending everything is fine, while inside your chest feels like a storm? That was me that night. The night that was supposed to be about celebration, about honoring 25 years of my parents' marriage. A milestone. A perfect excuse to gather in a Beverly Hills restaurant, polished silverware on the tables, the glow of chandeliers painting everyone in golden light. It looked beautiful from the outside, but if you've lived through family tension, you know that looks don't tell the truth. I kept telling myself, just make it through dinner. One meal. Smile for the photos. Hug relatives I hadn't seen in years. My sister Ashley was already there, hairstyled like she was heading to a red carpet event. She leaned close to my mom, whispering something that made them both laugh. My stomach tightened, though I didn't know why yet. The first toast went smoothly. My dad thanked everyone for coming. My mom glowed under the attention. I sat beside Ethan, my husband, squeezing his hand under the table, a silent plea for patience. He knew. He always knew when my nerves were screaming. Then it happened. My mom lifted her glass, a mischievous smile on her face. "To Monica's husband," she said, looking straight at Ethan. "It seems Ashley has had a little crush on him all along." The table erupted in laughter. My aunts chuckled, my uncles smirked. Even my dad gave a half-hearted laugh, shaking his head as though it was harmless. But nothing about it felt harmless. You know that sound? Laughter that isn't warm, but sharp, like glass breaking inside your chest. That's what it felt like. I forced a smile, cheeks burning, while Ethan shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Ashley covered her face, pretending to blush, but I saw the corner of her lips curve. She liked this. She liked the spotlight. My mind spun back to all the little things. The way she used to linger too long when Ethan was around. The texts I caught on his phone, late at night, filled with jokes that weren't funny. My parents had always brushed it off. "That's just Ashley being Ashley," they said. But sitting there, with the laughter rolling over me like waves I couldn't stop, I felt the truth pressing against my ribs. This wasn't a joke. It never had been. I tried to swallow it down, to let it go, because that's what I'd been taught my whole life. Keep the peace. Don't cause a scene. But something about that moment, the clinking glasses, the spotlight on Ethan, the smirks, made me realize peace had never existed. Not for me, not in this family. I glanced at Ethan. His jaw was tight, eyes darting between me and my mom. He didn't say a word, but I read the message in his silence. You don't have to take this. Have you ever felt that split second where your body decides before your mind catches up? My heart pounded, breath shallow. I could hear the hum of the restaurant, the clatter of dishes in the kitchen, waiters moving around us. And then, all of it faded. It was just me, standing at the edge of something I couldn't ignore anymore. Because a dinner isn't just a dinner when it's filled with years of buried slights, cruel comparisons, and laughter that cuts you open. That night wasn't about my parents' marriage anymore. It was about me realizing I had to speak, or I would drown in silence. I straightened in my chair. My hand slipped from Ethan's. I took a breath. And though the restaurant was still loud, inside me it was quiet, sharp, ready. The words had been waiting for years, and they were about to come out. They say laughter is medicine, but in that moment it felt like poison slipping through the cracks in my skin. Everyone around the table kept chuckling, shaking their heads like my mother's words were just some playful tease, nothing to hold on to, but I was sitting there, frozen, with my face on fire. And I swear I could feel every set of eyes sneaking glances at me, then at Ethan, then at Ashley. You know that kind of laugh that doesn't fade quickly? It lingers, bouncing from one person to another until the whole room is in on it. My aunt dabbed at her eyes, still giggling. My cousin leaned closer to whisper something I couldn't hear. My father muttered, all right, like he was reining in a comedy show. Meanwhile, my mom wore that smug little smile, proud of the punchline she had just delivered. Ashley tilted her head, hiding behind her glass of wine. But I saw her. Her cheeks were pink, not from embarrassment, but from delight. She loved this, loved the attention, loved that everyone was laughing because of her, at my expense. And suddenly, I wasn't just in that restaurant anymore. My mind ripped open the vault of memories I had tried so hard to lock away. I remembered being 12 years old, standing in the kitchen as my mother bragged about Ashley's piano recital while brushing off my art project as cute. I remembered the time Ashley got caught skipping class, and I stayed quiet about it, only for my parents to accuse me of being jealous when I spoke up later. I remembered birthday parties where she got the bigger gift, holidays where she got the seat of honor, and always, my mother's little digs, reminding me that Ashley was prettier, more outgoing, more lovable. It wasn't just a laugh at dinner. It was every laugh I had swallowed for years, rolled into one. Ethan's hand tightened around mine, but I couldn't even feel it anymore. My chest was buzzing, my throat dry. The laughter was still going, not as loud but steady, cruel. I looked at Ethan, and he looked back at me. His jaw was locked, his eyes heavy with the same disgust that churned in my stomach. Do you know what it feels like when your body refuses to sit still? My leg was bouncing under the table, my fingers twitching against the napkin in my lap. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw my glass across the table and shatter the whole charade. But instead, I swallowed. I forced myself to breathe, long and shaky, because if I exploded right then, they would call me dramatic, emotional, sensitive. And isn't that the label families love to pin on the child who finally says what nobody else will? So I tried to hold it in. I told myself, just one dinner. You can make it through one dinner. And then Ashley laughed, not the shy, embarrassed kind. A full laugh, light and musical, the kind she used when she wanted everyone to notice her. She brushed her hair back, leaned into my mom, and whispered, "Well, can you blame me?" The words sliced straight through me. It wasn't a joke anymore. It wasn't playful. It was intentional. A performance, staged right in front of me, with my mother as her co-star and the rest of my family as the audience. I could feel heat rising to my face, my pulse drumming in my ears. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. And in that instant, I wasn't 12 anymore, or 17, or 21. I was all those ages at once, sitting at the same table I'd been sitting at my entire life, watching the same scene replay. Ashley takes center stage, I become invisible, and if I dare to protest, I'm the problem. I took a sip of water, hoping the coolness would calm me, but it didn't. The glass trembled in my hand, and then my father said, "It's just a bit of fun. Don't take it so seriously." The laughter started up again. Do you know what happens when you've been pushed into the corner too many times? When you've spent your whole life swallowing the sting of words, the humiliation of comparisons, the weight of being second best? You stop caring about their labels. Dramatic, sensitive, overreacting. Fine. I would rather be all of that than be silent 1 second longer. I put the glass down. My napkin slipped from my lap and hit the floor. My shoulders straightened, and I felt the words clawing their way up my throat. Unstoppable now. Because laughter may cut deep, but silence cuts deeper. And I was done bleeding quietly. There's a moment, right before you decide to speak, where everything slows down. The laughter around me blurred into a dull hum, like the sound of traffic behind thick glass. My pulse drowned it out. I looked around the table, faces glowing in chandelier light, forks still clinking against plates, wine glasses half raised, and I thought, if I stay silent tonight, I'll never forgive myself. So I pushed my chair back. The scrape of wood against the floor cut through their laughter like a siren. Heads turned, the hum died. My mother's smile froze in place, and Ashley leaned back like she was about to watch her favorite show. I stood up, palms pressed against the edge of the table, and I said, "Enough." The word landed heavier than I expected. My voice didn't shake, not the way it used to when I tried to defend myself growing up. This time it was steady. Maybe because I wasn't just 12 or 17 anymore. I was a grown woman with a marriage worth protecting. "You think it's funny," I said, my eyes sweeping across the table, "to joke about my sister having a crush on my husband, but it's not funny. It's humiliating, and it's not new." The air shifted. You could feel the discomfort settle, like someone had turned the thermostat down. My dad cleared his throat as if to cut in, but I raised my hand. "No, Dad, not this time. You've been telling me to keep quiet my whole life. I won't." I turned toward Ashley. Her lips curled into a smirk, the kind she wore in high school whenever she got away with something. "Remember those late-night texts you sent Ethan? The ones you claimed were jokes? Remember the way you'd accidentally brush up against him at family barbecues? Or the photos you sent him saying, 'Oops, wrong person'?" Gasps around the table. My aunt's fork clattered onto her plate. My cousin whispered, "Oh my God!" Ashley's smirk faltered, but only for a second. "You're lying," she said quickly, her cheeks flushing red. I shook my head. "No." I've stayed quiet for years because I thought keeping the peace mattered more. I let Mom excuse it as Ashley being Ashley. But this is my husband, this is my marriage. And I won't sit here and watch my family laugh at the idea of my sister crossing that line. Ethan reached for my hand, grounding me, but I didn't sit down. I wasn't finished. I looked at my mother. Her smile had drained away, replaced by something sharper, defensive, almost angry. "And you?" I said. "You encouraged it. You laughed tonight because deep down, you've always loved putting me in my place. Ashley could do no wrong, and I could do nothing right. But this?" I gestured between Ethan and Ashley. "This is the last straw." The silence was so thick I could hear the buzz of the ceiling light. My father's eyes darted nervously between us, but he didn't speak. My mother's lips pressed into a thin line, her hands clutched tightly in her lap. For once in my life, nobody interrupted me. Nobody told me I was overreacting. Nobody told me to calm down. "Do you even realize what you're asking me to laugh at?" I said, softer now, but sharper too. "You're asking me to laugh at the destruction of my marriage, at betrayal, at disrespect. That's not humor, that's cruelty." Ashley scoffed, trying to recover her confidence. "You're making it bigger than it is. I was just messing around, quote." I leaned forward, meeting her eyes. Messing around is stealing someone's fries off their plate. Messing around is pulling a prank. This isn't messing around. This is you crossing boundaries I've begged you not to cross. "And Mom?" I turned back, my voice catching. "You let her." The weight of my words hung there, and for the first time, I saw something flicker in my mother's eyes. Not guilt, not remorse, but recognition. She knew it was true. She just didn't want to admit it. You ever feel the exact second your fear burns into something stronger? That's what happened then. My whole life, I'd been scared of being too loud, too much, too inconvenient. But standing there, looking at the family who had laughed at my pain, I realized I wasn't too much. They were too little. I straightened, voice firmer. I'm done being the punchline. I'm done being the quiet one who swallows her hurt so the rest of you can stay comfortable. Not anymore. No one laughed now. No one moved. Ashley's cheeks were blotchy, her hands trembling slightly as she reached for her wine glass. My mother looked like she wanted to vanish into her chair. My father sighed, long and tired, but said nothing. I stayed standing, breathing hard, feeling every ounce of weight lifting from me. Because for the first time in years, I had said it all out loud, and I wasn't sorry. There's always that moment after you speak, when the words are hanging in the air, and you wonder what will happen next. Will someone clap back? Will they dismiss you? Or will silence swallow the room whole? For a heartbeat, I thought maybe, just maybe, it would end there. That I had finally said my piece, and even if no one liked it, at least it was out. But then Ethan cleared his throat. I felt his hand slide from mine. He leaned forward, his eyes locked on my mother, not Ashley. His voice was calm, steady, almost too steady. You all think this is a joke? That it's some kind of funny little crush? Then tell me, was it funny when Mary had her own little fling with the neighbor? The words detonated in the room. My mother's face drained of color so fast it was like watching a candle snuffed out. Forks froze halfway to mouths. My father blinked as if he hadn't heard right. My aunt gasped so loudly heads turned from other tables. It was as if Ethan had ripped open a curtain that no one even knew existed. And behind it? A secret that had been festering in the dark. My mom stammered, That's not true. Her voice cracked, weak, but Ethan didn't flinch. Oh, it's true. I remember when we first started dating, Monica mentioned it in passing, thinking I should know what kind of family I was marrying into. The whispers, the late-night visits, the way the neighbor's car always happened to be in your driveway when Dad was out of town, gasps again. My cousin's hand flew to her mouth. Ashley sputtered, Ethan, stop! But he didn't. His voice sharpened. So if you want to laugh at your daughter's expense, maybe you should remember you've been the punchline before. Only difference is, your joke broke a marriage in half. My father slammed his fist on the table, plates rattled. Is this true? His voice shook, but not from disbelief, from rage. My mother's lips trembled. She looked everywhere but at him, at me, at Ethan, at Ashley, at the floor. It was years ago. It didn't mean anything. Quote, the restaurant, once filled with chatter, now felt suffocatingly quiet. Even waiters slowed, sensing the tension in the air. The golden light from the chandeliers seemed harsher now, exposing every wrinkle, every twitch, every lie. You humiliated me, my father said, voice low, dangerous, in front of our children, in front of everyone. I stayed, my mother whispered. I stayed with you, didn't I? I kept the family together. My dad pushed his chair back, the legs screeching across the floor. He stood there, looming, fists clenched at his sides. For the first time in my life, I saw my father as fragile. Not physically, but in the way betrayal shatters even the strongest men. Ashley scrambled to her feet. This isn't fair. We're here for an anniversary, not to drag up the past. Her voice was shrill, desperate, like someone trying to cover a crack in a dam with her bare hands. But the dam had already burst. I stood frozen, my heart racing. I hadn't expected Ethan to say that, to pull that truth out into the open. But as I looked at my mom, pale and shaking, I realized he had done what I couldn't. He had turned the mirror back on her. For once, she couldn't laugh it off. My aunts whispered furiously to each other. My cousins stared wide-eyed. My father stormed toward the exit, muttering, I need air, before disappearing into the night. My mother sat back down, her hands trembling so badly the wine in her glass spilled onto the white tablecloth. She looked at me then, eyes wet, voice breaking. Why would you do this to me? I let out a shaky breath. Why? Because you've been doing it to me my whole life. Tonight, it ends. The table was chaos. Relatives whispering, Ashley yelling, my mother crying into her napkin. But for me, there was clarity. The twist no one expected wasn't just Ethan's words. It was the realization that truth is louder than shame. that once spoken, it can't be shoved back into the dark. And in that moment, for the first time, I wasn't the one humiliated. I was the one standing. When you walk away from a battlefield, your ears don't stop ringing right away. The sound clings to you, the shouting, the gasps, the crash of a glass tipping over, and for a while, you can't tell if it's outside or inside your head. That's how it felt as Ethan and I left that restaurant. The doors swung closed behind us, shutting out the chandeliers, the whispers, the broken pieces of a family that had just been shattered in public. For a moment, the night air felt like water after drowning. Cool, sharp, unforgiving, but clean. I pulled in a breath so deep it hurt my lungs. Ethan slipped his arm around me, steady and solid. "You okay?" he asked. His voice was soft, but I could still hear the echo of his words at the table. Words that had blown my mother's secret wide open. I wanted to answer, but what do you say when you've just watched your entire family implode? I shook my head instead. Not no, not yes, just not yet. We walked to the car in silence. Behind us, the muffled sounds of chaos spilled into the night. Raised voices, hurried footsteps, the scrape of chairs against the floor. My father had stormed outside first, then disappeared. My mother's sobs still rattled through the walls. Ashley's voice carried even here, shrill and defensive, like a dog barking at shadows. And me? I felt hollow. Hollow, but lighter than I had in years. Ethan drove. The city lights of Beverly Hills blurred past, but I couldn't focus on them. My thoughts were looping, every smirk from Ashley, every laugh from my mother, every time I'd bitten my tongue just to keep the peace. Tonight, the dam had broken. "You did the right thing," Ethan said finally, eyes fixed on the road. I laughed, short and bitter. "Then why do I feel like I just set fire to everything?" "Because you did," he said simply. "But some things need to burn." The words sank into me. He was right. Families love to call silence loyalty. They love to call endurance strength, but all it does is keep the rot hidden. Tonight, the rot was out in the open, and maybe that was the only way healing could ever start. My stomach growled, of all things. I hadn't touched my plate at the restaurant, too busy choking on humiliation. Ethan grinned, hearing it. "Drive-through?" he asked. I nodded, almost laughing. The absurdity of it, walking out of a war zone and into a late-night burger joint. But maybe that's what I needed. Something ordinary. Something that wasn't soaked in family drama. We pulled up to a neon-lit drive-through, the kind that smells like grease and nostalgia. Ethan ordered fries, 2 burgers, and sodas. The cashier didn't know me, didn't know my mother or Ashley or the years of rivalry. To them, I was just another tired woman in the passenger seat. For the first time that night, I felt invisible in the best way. We parked under a flickering streetlight. The car filled with the smell of salt and fried potatoes. I bit into a burger, and it was messy, dripping, and perfect. I laughed, really laughed, for the first time that night. Ethan raised an eyebrow. "What's funny?" "Just everything," I said, wiping ketchup from my chin. The world fell apart in there, and here I am, shoving fries into my mouth like nothing happened. "Maybe that's the point," he said. "Life goes on." We sat there, eating quietly, and for a little while, the noise faded. The chaos was still out there, in that restaurant, in my parents' broken marriage, in Ashley's delusions. But inside our car, it was just us. I thought about my dad, storming out, his face red with betrayal. I thought about my mom, caught in lies she couldn't joke her way out of. And Ashley, always Ashley, still trying to twist herself into the victim. I knew tonight was just the beginning of fallout. There would be calls, messages, maybe even begging, but none of it would change one truth. I had finally drawn the line, and crossing it wasn't my burden anymore. The fries were gone, the soda cups empty. I leaned my head back against the seat, feeling exhaustion settle deep into my bones. But under it all, there was something else. Something sharp and clean. Freedom. Because walking away from the noise doesn't just mean leaving a restaurant. It means leaving behind the version of yourself that tolerated it. The one who stayed quiet to keep the peace. The one who believed family had the right to wound you without consequence. I wasn't that person anymore. As we drove home, city lights blurring in the rearview mirror, Ethan reached across and took my hand. His thumb brushed over my knuckles, and I realized this, right here, was the family I chose, the one worth protecting. The rest could stay in the noise. When you think something is over, the universe has a way of reminding you it's not. After that night, I told myself the hardest part was behind me. I had spoken up. Ethan had backed me. We had walked away from the noise, full of greasy fries and shaky laughter, ready to close the door for good. But peace didn't last long. It started 2 mornings later. I was scrolling through my phone, still groggy, sipping coffee when I saw it. A notification, tagged in a video. My heart thudded before I even tapped it, and then I saw us. Me, standing at that restaurant table, voice sharp, face flushed. Ethan's words, clear as day. Was it funny when Mary had her own little fling with the neighbor? I nearly dropped the mug. My breath caught in my throat. The video had captions, edits. Someone had cut the footage like a drama reel, complete with dramatic music. And the worst part? It had over 200,000 views already. My hands shook as I scrolled through comments. Some laughed. This is better than Netflix. Others speculated about my mom's secret. The neighbor? Damn. A few called me brave, but most just treated my family's implosion as entertainment. Ethan walked in, hair still messy from sleep. What's wrong? I shoved the phone toward him. His eyes widened as he watched. Then his jaw clenched. Where the hell did this come from? I didn't answer. I couldn't. My mind was spinning. Someone had filmed us. Someone at that table, maybe a cousin, maybe a so-called family friend. And instead of respecting what happened as private pain, they had fed it to the world. By lunchtime, co-workers were whispering in the break room. One even said, "I saw your TikTok," with a nervous laugh, like it was a joke we could share. I smiled tightly, but inside I wanted to scream. My humiliation had gone viral. Ethan picked me up after work. He was already on the phone with someone trying to trace the source. It started on a burner account, he told me, but someone had to send it first. That night lying in bed, I couldn't sleep. Every buzz from my phone felt like another dagger, more likes, more comments. More people peering into a moment that had nearly broken me, and then it clicked. Ashley! Who else had motive? Who else had laughed the loudest at my pain, only to crumble when I spoke? Who else wanted me humiliated, stripped down, forced into the spotlight she always craved? The thought twisted my stomach. It wasn't enough that she had crossed every boundary with Ethan. Now she had dragged the world into our war. By the next morning, Ethan had proof. A mutual friend admitted Ashley had sent them the clip as a joke. From there, it spread. Someone uploaded it, and the algorithm did the rest. When he told me, I sat very still, quiet, almost too quiet. My coffee cooled in my hands. Finally, I said, "So it wasn't enough to humiliate me in private. She wanted everyone else to laugh too." Ethan reached across the table. "She wanted to break you." And for a moment, I thought maybe she had. My cheeks burned every time I imagined strangers watching, replaying, dissecting my pain. But then another feeling stirred. Hot, electric, unshakable. Anger. I stood pushing the chair back. Then we don't handle this quietly anymore. Because private pain had become public scandal. and Ashley had crossed the last line she would ever cross. The first time I heard the ping of another notification, I almost ignored it. By then, I was already numb. The video had taken on a life of its own, thousands of shares, comments multiplying by the second. My humiliation was looping endlessly, replayed by strangers while I sat in my kitchen, coffee going cold. But Ethan didn't ignore it. He was hunched over his laptop, jaw tight, eyes scanning line after line of digital breadcrumbs. "Someone had to hit upload," he muttered. "These things don't just appear out of thin air." I watched him work, my stomach coiled. Every click of the keyboard felt like a countdown. And then he froze, staring at the screen. He didn't look at me right away. He didn't have to, I already knew. "It was Ashley," he said finally. "She sent it first." The words hit harder than I expected. Even though I had guessed, even though every part of me screamed her name from the start, hearing it confirmed was like being shoved underwater. I pressed my hands to my face, but the tears came anyway. Not just sadness, rage, betrayal, grief. Because family isn't supposed to do this. Sisters aren't supposed to feed your pain to the wolves for sport. I dropped my hands and whispered, "Why? Why would she do this?" Ethan leaned back, running a hand through his hair. "Because she's been competing with you your whole life, and now she saw her chance to win. She thought destroying you would make her feel bigger." My mind raced back through years of memories, the way Ashley always needed the spotlight, the way Mom encouraged it, feeding her ego, dismissing me. Every holiday, every birthday, every moment I played the shadow while she soaked in the glow. And now she'd found the biggest stage of all, the internet. The notification pinged again and again. My phone buzzed like a taunt. I couldn't breathe. So I stood up, pacing. She didn't just humiliate me in private. She humiliated me in front of the world. Do you get that? Every coworker, every neighbor, every stranger scrolling their feed, they've seen me at my lowest. Ethan's eyes were steady on me, and she wanted that. She wanted you crushed. I stopped pacing, the floor cold beneath my bare feet. "Then we crush her back." The words startled me, even as I said them, but they felt true. Solid. Ethan didn't flinch. How? That was the question, wasn't it? You don't fight fire with whispers. You don't fight betrayal with silence. If Ashley wanted to drag me into the public eye, then maybe that's exactly where she needed to be exposed. I sank back into the chair, pulse pounding. We don't play her game, we end it. The next few days blurred into a storm. Ethan dug deeper, tracing the video's path. From Ashley's message to her friend, from that friend to another group chat, from there to the TikTok account that went viral. It all pointed back to her. Meanwhile, the world kept talking. Headlines popped up on gossip blogs. Family anniversary turns into explosive showdown. Strangers speculated about our lives like they knew us. My inbox flooded with messages, some sympathetic, some cruel. Through it all, Ashley stayed quiet. Too quiet. No apologies, no explanations, just silence. And that silence told me everything. She was waiting for me to crumble. Instead, I grew sharper. One night, Ethan laid out the evidence across our table. Screenshots, timestamps, connections. The proof was undeniable. He looked at me and asked, "What do you want to do with this?" I stared at the papers, at the glowing laptop screen, at the phone buzzing with another notification. And I thought of every moment Ashley had laughed at my expense. Every time Mom had told me to let it go. Every time I had swallowed my pride to keep the peace. Not this time. I lifted my head, my voice steady. We take it to her. We put the truth in her face. And then if she doesn't stop, we put it in the hands of the law. Ethan nodded slowly. Then we're done playing. Because someone had to hit upload. And now it was time for her to own it. It was one thing to know Ashley had done it. It was another to see her face when she was forced to hear the truth out loud. Ethan and I drove to her apartment in West Hollywood on a Sunday evening. The sky was dimming, bruised purple with streaks of orange, the kind of sunset that makes the city look unreal. My stomach twisted the whole way there. Her building smelled of perfume and cigarette smoke. She opened the door with a smile too wide to be real, like she'd been practicing it in the mirror. Well, the stars of TikTok. To what do I owe this honor? Her voice dripped with mockery. I stepped inside anyway, brushing past her. Ethan followed, his shoulders squared, protective but calm. I turned to face her. My hands trembled, but my voice didn't. "You uploaded the video." Her smirk faltered, just a flicker, then returned. "So what if I did?" "Everyone loved it. You should be thanking me. You've never had this much attention in your life." Her words sliced, but I didn't flinch. I pulled a folder from my bag, screenshots, timestamps, the proof Ethan had gathered. I spread them across her coffee table. "You sent it, you fueled it. And now you're hiding behind silence while my life burns." She laughed, but it was brittle. "Please. You're being dramatic. It's just the internet. People forget in a week." Ethan's voice was low, steady. "Not this time." "This isn't a meme, Ashley. This is defamation. It's harassment. And we can take this to court." Ashley's smile cracked. Her eyes darted from the papers to my face, then back to Ethan. "You wouldn't dare." I leaned in, close enough to see the panic flicker beneath her bravado. "You've humiliated me for the last time. If you don't take that video down, if you don't admit what you did, then yes, we'll dare." For the first time, she was speechless. She opened her mouth, closed it, then scoffed, trying to recover. "You think you can scare me with threats?" "Mom will back me. She always does." That hit hard, but I didn't let it show. Instead, I said, "Maybe. But the world doesn't care about Mom's excuses anymore. They care about the truth. And the truth is, you crossed a line." The room was silent except for the ticking of a wall clock. Ashley's mask slipped further. Her fingers twisted the hem of her sweater. "I just wanted people to see what you're really like," she muttered. "What I'm really like." My voice cracked, not from weakness, but from years of pain. "You wanted to destroy me, and you thought if you could drag Ethan into it, if you could make me look pathetic, you'd finally win. But all you did was expose yourself." Ethan stepped closer, his presence filling the room. "This is your chance to stop, take the video down, own up. Or we move forward, and the law will make you own it." Ashley's eyes darted again, frantic now. She looked small, cornered. For once, there was no laughter, no spotlight to save her. Just the raw truth, pressed into her hands whether she wanted it or not. She didn't answer, not right away. But the silence spoke louder than words. When we left her apartment that night, I felt something shift. Not victory, not yet, but power. For the first time, Ashley wasn't holding it over me. I was holding it over her. And I knew this wasn't the end, but it was the beginning of her downfall. When you confront someone like Ashley, you expect fireworks, tears, screaming, maybe even a dramatic exit. What I didn't expect was the silence afterward. Days passed, and she said nothing. Not to me, not to Ethan, not to anyone. But the internet? The internet was louder than ever. The video kept spreading. Someone clipped my words into sound bites. "Enough. You're asking me to laugh at the destruction of my marriage." That line played over slow piano music in one version, over dramatic bass drops in another. Memes, commentary videos, TikTok stitches, it was everywhere. And with every share, the fallout spread. At work, my boss pulled me aside. "Are you okay?" she asked gently, but I could see the hesitation in her eyes. Clients had seen it. My private pain was no longer private. It was reputation now. At the grocery store, whispers followed me down the aisle. A teenager pointed, whispering to her friend, "That's her!" My hands shook so badly I dropped a carton of eggs. Ethan tried to shield me. He turned off his notifications, deleted apps, told me to do the same, but I couldn't. I needed to know what people were saying. It was a sickness, scrolling through comments, hoping for kindness but bracing for cruelty. And then came the worst twist. Someone dug up our family's past. Old records, rumors, even photos. My mother's alleged fling with the neighbor? It became headline fodder. Articles titled, "Family Drama Unfolds, Anniversary Dinner Gone Wrong," trended for days. My father stopped answering calls. My mother stayed silent, hiding from the mess she'd helped create. Ashley leaned in. She posted a cryptic Instagram story, a black and white photo of herself with the caption, "People love to twist the truth. But I'll stay shining." It was like gasoline on a fire. Her followers rallied around her, calling me jealous, bitter, pathetic. Ethan slammed his phone down when he saw it. "She's turning this into her stage," he said, furious. I sat on the couch, numb. That's all she's ever wanted. The spotlight. But something inside me snapped that night. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was anger. Maybe it was realizing that silence was feeding her. Whatever it was, I picked up my phone and typed. I didn't write a rant. I didn't insult her. I wrote the truth. I never wanted this online, but since we're here, yes, that video is real. Yes, my sister crossed boundaries. And yes, I finally stood up for myself. If you've ever been laughed at for your pain, you know how much it costs to speak. I won't apologize for doing it. I hit post before I could second-guess myself. Within an hour, thousands of comments poured in. Some cruel, yes, but many supportive. Strangers shared their own stories of toxic families, of being gaslit, of finding their voices. It wasn't just my story anymore. It was ours. Ashley didn't like that. She posted a longer response, painting herself as the misunderstood sibling, accusing me of dramatizing, of inventing betrayal where there was none. She called it sibling banter taken out of context. That was when Ethan stepped in. He uploaded the receipts, screenshots of Ashley's late-night texts, the jokes that weren't jokes, the blurred photo she'd sent him with a winking emoji. He blurred nothing about her name. He captioned it, "Banter doesn't look like this." The internet flipped. Commenters who had doubted me turned on her. "This isn't a crush, it's harassment," one wrote. Others called her manipulative, toxic, obsessed. For the first time, Ashley's silence wasn't strategy, it was survival. She deleted her story. Then her entire account went private, but the damage was already done. Her friends distanced themselves. Brands she worked with, small sponsorships, influencer deals, pulled out. Her shining stage had turned into quicksand. The fallout didn't stop with her. My mother called me late one night, her voice trembling. "Do you see what you've done? You've ruined your sister's life." I gripped the phone, my chest tight. "No, Mom." She ruined her own life. I just stopped covering for her, click. She hung up. I sat there shaking, but Ethan pulled me close. "You told the truth, that's all." The truth had started a storm. It had fractured my family, blown open secrets, turned private wounds into public spectacle. But in the wreckage, I saw something I hadn't before. People standing with me. People saying, "Me too." People telling me that my voice had given them courage. The fallout was spreading. But maybe, just maybe, so was the strength. Closure doesn't come all at once. It arrives in fragments, like light filtering through blinds, soft at first, then clearer, sharper, until you realize you can see again. After weeks of chaos, of public spectacle, of family silence and strangers' voices filling the gaps, I knew I had to draw the final line. Not for Ashley, not for my mother. For me. The morning started quietly. The city was wrapped in that pale gray light that makes everything feel suspended, like the world is holding its breath. Ethan sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through his laptop. He looked up at me, eyes steady. "The video's finally down. It's gone." I exhaled, not realizing I'd been holding my breath for days. But relief didn't wash over me the way I thought it would. The scars were still there, carved deep. Taking down the video didn't erase the betrayal that put it up in the first place. Later that day, I met with my father. He'd asked to see me, just me, no Ashley, no Mom. We sat at a cafe tucked in a quiet corner of Pasadena, the kind with chipped mugs and sunlight spilling across old wood tables. He looked older than I remembered, lines heavier on his face, shoulders slumped under weight I couldn't carry for him. "I didn't know," he said softly, stirring his coffee though he never took a sip. "About your mother. About Ashley. I didn't want to know. Maybe that's the same thing." I watched him, the man who had taught me how to ride a bike, who had stayed silent at too many family dinners. "You chose peace," I said. "But it wasn't peace, it was silence. And silence let this happen." His eyes watered and he nodded slowly. "You're right. And I'm sorry, Monica. I should have protected you. For the first time in years, I believed him. But belief didn't mean forgetting. Forgiveness isn't a light switch. It's a choice, one I wasn't ready to make yet." That evening, I sat down with Ethan. The apartment was quiet, the kind of quiet that doesn't feel empty but full. He handed me a notebook. "Write it down," he said. "What? Everything. What happened. How it felt. Where you go from here. Don't let them own the story. You own it." So I wrote. Pages filled with ink, with the weight of years I'd swallowed. I wrote about Ashley, about my mother's laughter, about the night everything shattered. I wrote about Ethan's hand in mine, about walking out of that restaurant into the night air that tasted like freedom. And when I finished, I closed the notebook and whispered, "This is my line." Because drawing the final line wasn't about revenge anymore. It wasn't about getting Ashley to admit she was wrong, or making my mother apologize. It was about deciding where my story ended and theirs no longer bled into it. Weeks later, messages still trickled in. Strangers thanking me, sharing their own stories of toxic families, of sisters who betrayed them, of parents who chose favorites. I realized my pain had become something bigger. Not just humiliation, not just betrayal, but connection. One night, Ethan and I walked along the beach, the waves pulling and retreating like the rhythm of breath. He squeezed my hand. "You okay?" I looked out at the dark water, endless and shifting. "I'm better than okay. I'm free. Free because I had spoken. Free because I had refused to be the punchline. Free because even in the wreckage, I had found my voice. Closure isn't clean. It's messy, raw, imperfect, but it's mine. And that's enough. So here's the truth. Families may break you, betray you, laugh at you. They may spread your pain for the world to consume. But at the end of it all, you choose. You choose whether to carry their cruelty or to set it down. I've set it down. And for the first time, I can finally walk forward without looking back.